The fluorescent lights of Savamart supermarket hummed overhead as Brianna Thompson stood frozen at checkout lane 7. Her hands trembled as she held the can of baby formula, the same can she had carefully selected 15 minutes ago, checking and rechecking the price against her dwindling bank balance. Behind her, 6-month-old Tyler screamed from his stroller, his tiny fists waving in the air, his face red with hunger and frustration. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but your card has been declined," the cashier repeated, louder this time, as if volume would somehow make the situation less humiliating. Her name tag read Brenda, and her expression mixed pity with impatience. The line behind Brianna had grown to 7 people, their collective sighs and shuffling feet creating a soundtrack of judgment. "Can you try it again?" Brianna asked, her voice barely a whisper. She already knew the answer. She had checked her account balance that morning. $42. The formula alone cost $39. She had thought, somehow, maybe the pending charge from 3 days ago had cleared. Maybe there would be enough. There wasn't. "I tried it twice, honey," Brenda said, her tone softening slightly as Tyler's cries grew louder. "Do you have another card?" Brianna's throat tightened. The other shoppers were staring now. She could feel their eyes boring into her back, could almost hear their thoughts. Why did she have a baby if she couldn't afford to feed him? Where was the father? Why was she wasting everyone's time? I'll have to return it," Brianna said, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. "Just the formula. I can come back when I get paid on Friday." Friday was 4 days away. Tyler couldn't wait 4 days. "Mommy's sorry, baby," she whispered, turning to her son. His little face was soaked with tears, his mouth open in another wail of hunger. She had fed him the last of her formula that morning, scraping the bottom of the can to make one final bottle. She had skipped breakfast herself, saving her last $20 for diapers and the cheapest loaf of bread she could find. As Brenda began processing the return, scanning the formula can with a beep that seemed to echo through the entire store, Brianna fought back tears. The snow outside the window had been falling steadily all afternoon, coating the parking lot in a blanket of white. Her car, a 15-year-old sedan with a faulty heater, was parked in the far corner. She would have to bundle Tyler up and make the cold drive back to their cramped studio apartment, where she would somehow have to figure out how to feed her baby boy. For people behind her in line stood a man in a gray wool coat, his dark hair touched with silver at the temples. Nathan Harrison had stopped at Savamart on his way home from the office, something he rarely did. His chef usually handled the grocery shopping for his estate, but tonight he had dismissed his driver early and decided to pick up a few items himself. He told himself it was because he wanted the exercise, the normalcy of a simple errand. The truth was that his enormous house felt suffocating in its silence, and he was delaying the return to its empty rooms for as long as possible. He had noticed the young woman the moment he entered the store. She had been in the baby aisle, carefully comparing prices, using a calculator on her cracked phone screen. Something about her concentration, her determination, had caught his attention. She wore a blue winter coat that had seen better days, and her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. When she had finally selected the formula and placed it in her basket with a small sigh of relief, Nathan had found himself hoping, inexplicably, that she would be able to buy it. Now, watching her at the checkout, watching the can being scanned for return, watching her baby scream while she stood with her shoulders hunched in defeat, Nathan felt something crack open in his chest. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced in years, not since he had built his walls high enough to keep out the memories of his own childhood, of his own mother counting pennies at a checkout counter while he sat in a cart, hungry and too young to understand why they had to put food back. He had sworn that day that when he grew up, no one around him would ever go hungry if he could help it. He had built Harrison Industries from nothing, turned it into a billion-dollar enterprise, and along the way he had forgotten that promise. He had forgotten a lot of things in his pursuit of success and his retreat into loneliness. "Excuse me," Nathan said, his voice cutting through the ambient noise of the store. He stepped forward, past the 3 people between him and Brianna. "I'll pay for her groceries." Brianna turned, her eyes wide with shock. They were brown, he noticed, and currently swimming with unshed tears. "What?" "I'll pay," Nathan repeated, pulling out his wallet. He addressed Brenda directly. "Ring up the formula again, please. And whatever else she has." "Sir, you don't have to." Brianna began, but her words trailed off as Tyler let out another piercing cry. "I know I don't have to," Nathan said gently. He looked at the screaming baby, then back at her. "But I want to. Please, let me do this." Brianna's pride warred with her desperation. She had been on her own since Tyler was born, since his father had walked out the moment she told him she was pregnant. She had learned to rely on no one, to expect nothing from anyone. Accepting help felt like weakness, felt like admitting she couldn't handle motherhood on her own. But Tyler was hungry. Tyler needed formula. And this stranger, this well-dressed man with kind eyes, was offering help without judgment, without conditions she could see. "Okay," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Okay. Thank you." Nathan handed his credit card to Brenda, who looked between them with raised eyebrows before processing the transaction. The formula, the diapers, the bread, a small jar of peanut butter, a gallon of milk. $47.32. Nathan didn't even glance at the total. "Would you like to add anything else?" he asked Brianna. She shook her head, tears now flowing freely down her cheeks. "This is more than enough. This is everything. Thank you so much." As Brenda bagged the groceries, Nathan studied the young woman before him. She couldn't be more than 25, and exhaustion lined her face. But there was strength there too, resilience in the set of her jaw and the way she held herself despite her obvious distress. "I'm Nathan," he said, extending his hand. "Nathan Harrison." "Brianna Thompson," she replied, shaking his hand with fingers that were cold from the winter weather outside. "And this is Tyler." Nathan looked down at the baby, whose cries had reduced to hiccuping sobs now that the transaction was complete, as if he somehow sensed that food was coming. "Hello, Tyler," Nathan said softly. Brenda finished bagging the groceries and handed them over. Brianna clutched them to her chest like precious cargo, which Nathan supposed they were. "I don't know how to thank you," Brianna said. "I can pay you back. It will take me a few weeks, but I can." "No," Nathan interrupted gently. "No repayment necessary. Consider it a gift. One parent to another." Brianna's eyebrows rose. "You have children?" "No," Nathan admitted, a shadow crossing his face. "But I had a mother who struggled to feed me. I remember what it felt like to be that child. I'm just glad I could help today." There was something in his expression, a flicker of old pain, that made Brianna see him not as a wealthy stranger, but as someone who understood. "Thank you," she said again, meaning it with every fiber of her being. "You have no idea what this means to me." Nathan watched as she gathered her bags and began pushing Tyler's stroller toward the exit. He should let her go, return to his own shopping, his own empty evening. But something stopped him. "Brianna, wait," he called after her. She turned, surprise on her face. "Are you employed?" he asked. The question caught her off guard. I work part-time at a call center. Night shifts when I can find a sitter for Tyler. It's not much, but..." "I'm the CFO of Harrison Industries," Nathan said. "We have an opening for an administrative assistant. Full-time with benefits, daycare on site. If you're interested, the position is yours." Brianna stared at him, her mouth opening and closing without sound. Around them, the other shoppers had resumed their own transactions, but the moment between Nathan and Brianna seemed suspended in time. "You don't even know me," she finally managed. "You don't know if I'm qualified." "I know you're a mother who's fighting hard to take care of her son," Nathan said. "I know you have integrity because you didn't ask me to pay for your groceries, even though you desperately needed help. That tells me everything I need to know. The rest you can learn on the job." Tyler let out a small coo as if in agreement. Brianna felt the tears return, but this time they were different. They weren't tears of despair but of hope, of the possibility that maybe, just maybe, things were about to change. "Yes," she said, her voice stronger now. "Yes, I'm interested. I accept. Thank you. Thank you so much." Nathan smiled, and Brianna realized it was the first genuine smile she had seen on his face. It transformed his features, making him look younger, less burdened. "Come to Harrison Industries on Monday morning," he said, pulling a business card from his wallet and handing it to her. "Ask for me at the front desk. We'll get you set up." As Brianna left the store, pushing Tyler through the automatic doors and into the snowy evening, she clutched the business card in one hand and the grocery bags in the other. Behind her, Nathan Harrison watched her go, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. The checkout line resumed its normal flow, and Nathan completed his own small transaction in silence. But as he walked to his car, his steps felt lighter than they had in months. He had helped someone today. He had made a real difference in someone's life. And somehow, in that simple act of kindness, he felt less alone. Have you ever witnessed a moment that restored your faith in humanity? Could you have walked away, or would you have stepped in like Nathan? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming stories that remind us kindness still exists in this world. The weekend passed in a blur for Brianna. Saturday morning, she fed Tyler with the formula Nathan had bought, watching her son drink eagerly, his small hands grasping at the bottle. Each gulp he took felt like a miracle, a gift she had almost been unable to give him. She sat in the worn armchair in her studio apartment, the one piece of furniture she had managed to keep after Tyler's father had left, and cried tears of relief. Sunday she prepared for Monday. She had exactly 2 professional outfits, both purchased from a thrift store when she had first started looking for better work. One was a navy dress with a small stain on the hem that she had carefully hidden with strategic pressing. The other was a pair of gray slacks and a green blouse. She chose the green blouse. Green meant growth, new beginnings. She needed all the positive symbols she could get. Tyler's grandmother, Miss Dorothy from the apartment down the hall, had agreed to watch him on Sunday while Brianna researched Harrison Industries. She sat at the public library, using their computers, typing the name into the search engine with fingers that shook slightly from caffeine and nerves. What she found astounded her. Harrison Industries was a major corporation with holdings in technology, real estate, and sustainable energy. Their headquarters was a gleaming tower downtown, all glass and steel and modern architecture. Nathan Harrison himself was listed as the chief financial officer, age 38, net worth estimated at over $3 billion. $3 billion. And he had stopped to pay for her $47 grocery bill. Brianna read every article she could find about Nathan Harrison. Most were business-focused, discussing acquisitions and quarterly earnings and stock prices. But she found a few human interest pieces too. One mentioned his donations to childhood hunger charities. Another briefly noted that he had grown up in poverty, though details were scarce. There were no mentions of a wife or children. No social media presence beyond the professional accounts for his company. He was, according to one profile, known as one of the city's most eligible bachelors and most private citizens. Monday morning arrived with fresh snow and bitter cold. Brianna woke at 5, fed Tyler, dressed him in his warmest clothes and got herself ready. The company daycare wouldn't open until 7:30, according to the website she had studied, so she would need to bring Tyler with her for the initial meeting and hope that was acceptable. The bus ride downtown took 40 minutes. Brianna clutched Tyler's carrier and her purse, watching the city transform from her familiar neighborhood of aging brick buildings and corner stores to the gleaming business district where Harrison Industries was located. The tower rose 30 stories into the gray morning sky, its windows reflecting clouds and light. Security at the front desk was polite but thorough. When Brianna gave her name and explained she was there to see Nathan Harrison, the guard made a phone call. 30 seconds later, his eyebrows rose, and he handed her a temporary badge. "Mr. Harrison is expecting you," he said. 30th floor. The elevator was glass-walled, offering a view of the city as it ascended. Tyler gurgled in his carrier, fascinated by the movement and lights. Brianna watched the numbers climb, her heart beating faster with each floor. The 30th floor was elegant but not ostentatious. Soft carpet, modern art on the walls, the scent of fresh coffee in the air. A receptionist with silver hair and a warm smile stood as Brianna approached. "You must be Brianna Thompson," she said. "I'm Patrice Williams, office manager. Mr. Harrison told me to expect you. Please follow me." They walked down a hallway lined with offices and conference rooms. Through the windows, Brianna could see people at work, typing at computers, talking on phones, moving with purpose. This was a real company, a successful company, and she was about to become part of it. Nathan's office was at the end of the hall, corner position with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Patrice knocked twice and opened the door. "Miss Thompson is here, Mr. Harrison." Nathan stood from behind his desk, wearing a charcoal suit with a blue tie. In the supermarket he had seemed kind but ordinary. Here, in his element, he radiated authority and confidence. But when he saw Brianna and Tyler, his expression softened into the same gentle look he had worn on Friday night. "Brianna," he said, coming around his desk. "Thank you for coming. And hello again, Tyler." "Thank you for this opportunity," Brianna said. She had practiced this speech in the mirror. "I want you to know how grateful I am. I won't let you down." "I have no doubt," Nathan replied. He gestured to the chairs facing his desk. "Please sit. We have some details to work out." For the next hour, Nathan explained the position. She would be an administrative assistant reporting to Patrice, with responsibilities including scheduling, correspondence, basic accounting, and project support. The salary he mentioned made Brianna's head spin. It was more than triple what she made at the call center. With benefits, with paid vacation, with access to the company daycare, which had extended hours and cost only a small percentage of her paycheck. "This is too generous," Brianna heard herself say. Are you sure? Nathan leaned back in his chair, studying her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Brianna, I'm going to tell you something I don't tell many people. When I was 7 years old, my mother and I lived in a car for 3 months. She worked 3 jobs trying to save enough for an apartment deposit. I remember being hungry all the time. I remember other people walking past us like we were invisible. I remember one woman, one stranger, who bought us dinner at a diner and slipped my mother $200. My mother cried. I had never seen her cry before. He paused, looking out the window at the city below. That $200 changed our lives. It gave my mother enough to rent a small apartment. Having an address meant she could get better jobs. It was the domino that started everything. Years later, when I had built this company, I tried to find that woman to thank her. I never could. He turned back to Brianna. So now I pay it forward when I can. I pay it forward because I remember what it feels like to need help and to have someone see you, really see you as a human being who matters. You don't have to thank me. You don't have to prove yourself worthy. You're worthy because you're here, because you're trying, because you love your son enough to keep fighting. The job is real. The opportunity is real. What you do with it is up to you. Brianna found she couldn't speak. Emotion clogged her throat, making words impossible. She simply nodded, holding Tyler a little tighter. Nathan smiled. Patrice will show you to your desk and get you set up with everything you need. Today is orientation. Tomorrow you start for real. Does that work for you? Yes, Brianna managed. Yes, that works. Thank you. There's one more thing, Nathan said. He opened a drawer in his desk and pulled out an envelope. This is an advance on your first paycheck. $2,000. You'll need professional clothes, transportation, maybe some things for Tyler. Consider it a signing bonus. Brianna took the envelope with shaking hands. $2,000. $2,000. She had never held that much money at once in her entire life. Mr. Harrison, she began, but he held up a hand. Nathan, he corrected gently. In the office, it's professional, but I think after what we've been through, first names are appropriate. And Brianna, I need you to understand something. This isn't charity. This is me recognizing talent and potential when I see it. You're going to be an asset to this company. I can tell. How? She asked. How can you tell? Because I've learned to trust my instincts about people, he said. And my instincts are rarely wrong. Patrice returned to escort Brianna to her new workspace. As they walked through the halls, passing employees who nodded and smiled, Brianna felt like she was in a dream. Her desk was in an open area with 3 other administrative assistants, near a window with a view of the park across the street. It had a computer, a phone, office supplies neatly organized in drawers. The daycare is on the 5th floor, Patrice explained. You can visit Tyler during your breaks. They have cameras so you can check in on him from your computer anytime. Lunch is subsidized in the cafeteria, 1 floor down. Coffee and tea are free always. And we have a new parent support group that meets on Thursdays if you're interested. This feels like too much, Brianna whispered. Patrice smiled, a knowing look in her eyes. I've worked for Nathan Harrison for 12 years. He's a good man, Brianna. A really good man. He doesn't do things halfway. If he brings someone into this company, it's because he believes in them. So stop worrying about whether you deserve this and start focusing on doing good work. That's the best thank you can give him. The rest of Monday was a whirlwind of paperwork, computer logins, and introductions. Brianna met the other administrative assistants, all women around her age who welcomed her warmly. She registered Tyler at the daycare, where the staff immediately fell in love with her son. She ate lunch in the cafeteria, where the food was restaurant quality and cost only $3 for employees. That evening, on the bus ride home with Tyler sleeping in his carrier, Brianna stared at the envelope in her purse. $2,000. A real job. A chance at a better life. She had walked into that supermarket on Friday night with $42 and a can of formula she couldn't afford. She was leaving Monday with hope, opportunity, and gratitude so profound it made her chest ache. When she got back to her apartment, Miss Dorothy was waiting in the hallway, eager to hear how it had gone. Brianna told her everything, words tumbling over each other in her excitement. The older woman listened with tears in her eyes. God is good, Miss Dorothy said, hugging Brianna tight. And so are you, baby girl. You're going to do wonderful things. I just know it. That night, after Tyler was fed and asleep in his crib, Brianna sat at her small kitchen table and wrote a letter. It was addressed to Nathan Harrison, care of Harrison Industries, and in it, she poured out her gratitude in words she hadn't been able to say out loud. She told him about Tyler's father leaving, about the struggles of the past 6 months, about the shame she had felt in that checkout line. She told him that his kindness had given her more than a job. It had given her back her dignity, her hope, her belief that good people existed in the world. She sealed the letter, stamped it, and walked it to the mailbox on the corner in the cold winter night. As she dropped it through the slot, she looked up at the stars barely visible through the city lights and made a silent promise. She would work hard. She would make Nathan's faith in her worthwhile. And someday, when she was in a position to help someone else, she would pay forward the kindness he had shown her. 3 blocks away in his penthouse office, Nathan was still at his desk, looking out at the same stars. He was thinking about Brianna Thompson and her son Tyler. He was thinking about the look of relief on her face when she accepted the job. He was thinking about how, for the first time in years, he felt like his success meant something beyond numbers on a balance sheet. He didn't know about the letter she had written. He didn't know that in the weeks and months to come, their lives would become intertwined in ways neither of them could predict. He only knew that helping her had felt right, had felt necessary, had filled a hollow space inside him he had almost forgotten existed. Tomorrow he would go back to being the CFO, the businessman, the public face of Harrison Industries. But tonight, he was just Nathan, a man who had once been a hungry child, who had kept a promise he made to himself long ago. And that felt like enough. Brianna's first real day at Harrison Industries began with disaster. Tyler had been fussy all night, running a low fever that had her up every hour checking his temperature and offering bottles he barely touched. By morning, she was exhausted, her eyes gritty with lack of sleep and running late. She missed her usual bus, had to wait 20 minutes for the next one, and arrived at the building 10 minutes after her scheduled start time of 8 o'clock. She rushed through security, Tyler's carrier banging against her hip, and practically ran to the elevator. On the 5th floor, she dropped him at daycare with apologies to the staff about his fever, though they assured her it was mild and nothing to worry about. Then she rode up to the 30th floor, heart pounding, preparing her excuses for being late. Patrice was waiting at her desk with a cup of coffee and a kind smile. "Rough night?" she asked. "I'm so sorry," Brianna began, but Patrice waved her off. "You're a new mother with a baby who's feeling under the weather. You're only 10 minutes late and you still made it in. That shows dedication. Don't apologize. Just breathe, drink this coffee, and let's get you settled." The kindness, so simple and genuine, nearly made Brianna cry. Again. She seemed to cry a lot these days, but at least now they were often tears of relief rather than despair. The morning was spent learning the company's computer systems. The other administrative assistants, Rochelle, Jennifer, and Amber, were patient teachers, showing her how to access schedules, format documents, and navigate the intricate filing systems that kept the executive offices running smoothly. Brianna absorbed everything like a sponge, taking careful notes in a spiral notebook she had purchased with part of her advance. At 10:30, her computer beeped with a message. It was from Nathan Harrison himself. "How is your first day going? Is Tyler feeling better?" Brianna stared at the message. The CFO of a billion-dollar company was checking in on her son's health. She typed back carefully. "First day is going well. Thank you for asking. Tyler's fever is mild. The daycare staff has been wonderful." His response came 30 seconds later. "Good. Let Patrice know if you need anything. Welcome to the team." Throughout the day, Brianna found herself glancing toward Nathan's office. Through the glass walls, she could see him in meetings, on phone calls, working at his computer with intense concentration. He moved through the office with quiet authority, and everyone clearly respected him. But she also noticed the small things. How he always said thank you to the staff. How he held doors. How he stopped to listen when people spoke to him, giving them his full attention. Rochelle, who had worked at Harrison Industries for 3 years, noticed Brianna watching. During lunch in the cafeteria, she leaned over with a conspiratorial smile. "You're trying to figure him out, aren't you?" Rochelle said. She was a young black woman around Brianna's age, with short natural hair and bright green earrings that matched her green sweater. "Is it that obvious?" Brianna asked. "Everyone does it when they first start," Rochelle assured her. "Nathan Harrison is a bit of a mystery. Brilliant businessman. Generous employer. But private. Really private. Doesn't date, doesn't socialize much outside of business functions. Some people say he's married to his work." "That sounds lonely," Brianna said without thinking. Rochelle's expression turned thoughtful. "You know, I think you're right. I never thought about it that way before, but yeah. For all his success, he does seem lonely." That afternoon, Brianna was assigned her first real task. A project report needed to be formatted and prepared for a client presentation. Patrice walked her through the requirements, showing her examples of previous reports and explaining the company's standards. Then she left Brianna to work on it independently. It was challenging. The report was technical, full of financial terminology Brianna didn't fully understand. But she was determined. She cross-referenced every term she didn't know, double-checked every number and meticulously formatted each page according to the specifications. It took her 4 hours, an hour longer than Patrice had estimated, but when she finished she was confident it was correct. She submitted it to Patrice for review at 5 o'clock. 20 minutes later, Patrice appeared at her desk with a rare wide smile. "Nathan wants to see you in his office." Brianna's stomach dropped. "Did I do something wrong?" "Just go," Patrice said, her eyes twinkling. Brianna walked to Nathan's office on shaking legs. Through the glass, she could see him at his desk, her report open on his computer screen. She knocked softly. "Come in," he called. She entered, closing the door behind her as he gestured for her to sit. "This report," Nathan said, turning his monitor toward her. "This is excellent work, Brianna. Really excellent. The formatting is perfect. The data is clear and well organized. You even caught an error in the original data set that no one else noticed." "I did?" Brianna asked, surprised. Line 47. "The Q2 revenue figure didn't match the Q1 to Q2 growth percentage. You corrected it and noted the discrepancy in the comments. That kind of attention to detail is exactly what we need here." Pride swelled in Brianna's chest. When was the last time someone had praised her work? When was the last time she had felt competent at something beyond keeping Tyler fed and safe? "Thank you," she said softly. "I wanted to do a good job. You gave me such an amazing opportunity. I didn't want to let you down." Nathan's expression shifted into something she couldn't quite read. "Brianna, I'm going to ask you to stop thinking about this as me doing you a favor. You earned this position. You're proving that with your work. The gratitude is appreciated but not necessary. You belong here." The words settled over her like a warm blanket. "You belong here." For words she had never expected to hear in a place like this. "Okay," she said, smiling for what felt like the first time all day. "I'll try to remember that." "How is Tyler feeling?" Nathan asked, changing the subject. "Better. The fever broke around lunch. He's been sleeping at daycare most of the afternoon." "That's good. Babies are resilient." He paused, then added, "I grew up without a father. My mother raised me alone. It's not an easy path, but you're doing well. Better than well." The personal revelation surprised Brianna. "Thank you for telling me that. Sometimes I worry that Tyler will suffer because his father isn't around." "He won't suffer if he has a mother who loves him and fights for him," Nathan said firmly. "Which he clearly does. That's what matters." Their eyes met and something passed between them. Understanding. Recognition. A shared knowledge of what it meant to struggle and survive. "I should let you get back to Tyler," Nathan said, breaking the moment. "But Brianna, excellent work today. Keep it up." She left his office feeling lighter than she had in months. As she collected Tyler from daycare and rode the bus home, she mentally planned her evening. She would make dinner, simple but nutritious. She would play with Tyler, read him his favorite board book about animals. She would review her notes from the day and prepare for tomorrow. Her life had changed in less than a week. The studio apartment was the same. The furniture was the same. But she was different. She had purpose now. Direction. Hope. Meanwhile, in his office, Nathan worked late into the evening as usual. But tonight he found himself distracted. He kept thinking about Brianna's expression when he had praised her work. The surprise and joy on her face had been so genuine, so unguarded. It made him realize how rarely he connected with people on a real level. His days were filled with meetings and decisions and strategic planning. He was respected, even feared in some business circles. But who really knew him? His parents were both gone, his mother from cancer 5 years ago, his father having left before Nathan was born. He had no siblings, no wife, no children. His colleagues were professional acquaintances. His friends, the few he had, were scattered across the country, seen maybe once or twice a year. He had built an empire and, in the process, had built walls around himself so high that no one could climb them. Looking at Brianna, watching her navigate new motherhood with such grace and determination, made him remember what it felt like to be vulnerable, to need help, to accept kindness. She had thanked him repeatedly, but what she didn't know was that in helping her, she had reminded him of why he worked so hard, why his success should matter beyond the numbers in his accounts. He shut down his computer at 8 o'clock, earlier than usual, and drove home to his estate in the hills overlooking the city. The house was a masterpiece of modern architecture, 6,000 square feet of glass and stone and carefully curated art. It had cost him $7 million and had been featured in 3 design magazines. It was also one of the loneliest places he had ever lived. His footsteps echoed on the marble floors as he entered. The housekeeper had left dinner in the refrigerator with reheating instructions. He ate alone at the long dining table, looking out at the view of city lights spreading like stars below. Somewhere out there, Brianna was probably putting Tyler to bed, reading him that bored book about animals, singing him a lullaby. The image made Nathan smile, though he couldn't have explained why. He had helped her because it was the right thing to do, because he remembered being that child, that mother. But somewhere along the way, in the simple act of kindness at a supermarket checkout, something had shifted inside him. He wasn't sure what it meant yet. He only knew that for the first time in a very long time, his enormous, beautiful, empty house felt a little less like home than the busy, chaotic offices of Harrison Industries, where a young woman in a green blouse was learning to believe in herself again. 3 weeks into her new job, Brianna had found her rhythm. She arrived at 7:45 each morning, dropped Tyler at daycare with hugs and promises to check in, and was at her desk by 8. Her work had earned her growing responsibilities. Patrice had begun assigning her more complex tasks, including direct support for some of the executive team. The other assistants treated her as an equal now, including her in their lunch groups and coffee breaks. Life at home had improved dramatically. With her first full paycheck, Brianna had paid off her overdue electric bill, bought groceries without counting every penny, and even purchased a new winter coat for Tyler. The relief of financial stability was overwhelming. She no longer woke at 3 in the morning in a panic about money. She could breathe. But something else was happening too, something she hadn't expected and wasn't entirely sure what to do about. She was noticing Nathan Harrison. Not just as her boss or the man who had rescued her. She was noticing him as a person. As a man. It started small. The way he rolled up his sleeves when he was concentrating, revealing strong forearms. The rare moments when he laughed at something during a meeting, the sound rich and warm. How he always remembered people's names, even the night cleaning staff who came after hours. His patience when explaining complex financial concepts to team members who didn't have his background. She tried to convince herself it was just gratitude. He had changed her life, so of course she felt drawn to him. But gratitude didn't explain why her heart beat faster when he stopped by her desk to drop off documents. Gratitude didn't explain why she found herself hoping he would notice the new blue blouse she had bought with her paycheck. On a Wednesday morning in early February, Nathan did notice. "That's a nice color on you," he said, pausing by her desk on his way to a meeting. "Blue suits you." Brianna felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Thank you. I thought I should expand my work wardrobe." "You've been doing excellent work," Nathan said. "Patrice tells me you're already handling tasks that usually take new hires months to learn. I'm impressed." "I have good teachers," Brianna replied, glancing at Patrice's office. "Still, credit where it's due. You have natural talent for this." He checked his watch. "I have a meeting, but I wanted to ask. How is Tyler? He must be, 7 months now?" The fact that Nathan remembered her son's age made something flutter in Brianna's chest. "Almost 7 months, yes. He's great. Starting to crawl. The daycare staff says he's the happiest baby they've ever seen." "He has a good mother," Nathan said simply. Then, before she could respond, he added, "I'd like to meet him properly sometime. If that's all right with you. Maybe during lunch one day you could bring him up." "Really?" Brianna asked, surprise evident in her voice. "Really? I like children. I don't get to spend time around them much." A shadow passed over his face, there and gone so quickly Brianna almost missed it. "I'd love that," she said. "How about tomorrow? Thursday?" "Tomorrow works. Noon. I'll be there." As Nathan walked away toward his meeting, Rochelle appeared at Brianna's desk, her eyes wide. "Did Nathan Harrison just ask to meet your baby?" she whispered. "He was just being nice," Brianna said, trying to keep her voice casual. "Girl, Nathan Harrison doesn't do things just to be nice. I mean, he's kind, but he's also incredibly private. In 3 years, I've never known him to take a personal interest in an employee's family life. Never." "What are you saying?" Brianna asked, though part of her already knew. "I'm saying he likes you," Rochelle said, grinning. "And before you protest, I don't mean in a creepy boss way. I mean he's interested. As a person." "That's ridiculous," Brianna insisted. "He's a billionaire. I'm a single mother who was buying groceries with a declined credit card a month ago. We're from completely different worlds." "Maybe that's exactly why it's not ridiculous," Rochelle said thoughtfully. He's surrounded by people who want something from him. Money, connections, status. You didn't know who he was when he helped you. You weren't trying to impress him or use him. That's probably refreshing for someone in his position. Brianna didn't know what to say to that. She spent the rest of the morning trying to focus on work and not on the lunch meeting scheduled for tomorrow. That evening, she mentioned it to Miss Dorothy while picking up some mail the older woman had accepted for her. "A billionaire wants to meet Tyler," Miss Dorothy said, her eyes crinkling with amusement. My, that's interesting." "It's not interesting, it's just lunch," Brianna protested. "Baby girl, when a successful, single man goes out of his way to spend time with a single mother and her baby, that's always interesting." Miss Dorothy patted her hand. "Just be open to possibilities, that's all I'm saying. The Lord works in mysterious ways." Thursday arrived with unusual warmth for February, the temperature climbing to almost 50 degrees. The snow from previous weeks had melted, revealing the brown grass and bare trees of late winter. Brianna dressed carefully that morning, choosing her maroon cardigan over a cream blouse, with her best pair of black slacks. She told herself she wasn't dressing up for Nathan. She was just being professional. At 11:50, she went down to the daycare to collect Tyler. The staff had dressed him in the little blue outfit she had bought him, the one with the teddy bear on the front. His face lit up when he saw her, and he reached out with his chubby arms, babbling happily. "Someone's excited to see Mommy," one of the daycare workers, Lisa, said with a smile. "We're having lunch with Mr. Harrison," Brianna explained. Lisa's eyebrows rose. "Well now, that's special. Tyler, you're meeting the big boss." In the elevator up to the 30th floor, Brianna's stomach fluttered with nerves. This was silly. It was just lunch. Nathan was just being kind, taking an interest in his employee's life. It didn't mean anything. Nathan was waiting in his office, and he had cleared a space on his conference table. To Brianna's surprise, there were baby toys spread out and a high chair positioned by the table. "I borrowed the high chair from the daycare," Nathan explained, seeing her shocked expression. "I hope that's okay. I thought Tyler might be more comfortable." "You didn't have to do all this," Brianna said. "I wanted to," Nathan replied. He came around his desk and held out his arms. "May I?" Brianna handed Tyler over, and to her amazement, her son went willingly. Tyler was usually shy with strangers, but he seemed comfortable with Nathan immediately. He grabbed at Nathan's tie, gurgling with delight. "Hey there, little man," Nathan said softly. "You're getting so big." He looked at Brianna. "I ordered lunch from the Italian place down the street. I hope pasta's okay. I got the kind without any ingredients that babies shouldn't have, just in case you wanted to share some with Tyler." "That's very thoughtful," Brianna said, her voice catching slightly. When was the last time someone had thought ahead about Tyler's needs other than her? They ate lunch together, Tyler in the high chair between them, happily gumming pieces of soft bread and making a glorious mess. Nathan told stories about his own childhood, the funny ones that made Brianna laugh. She shared stories about Tyler's growing personality, his love of music, the way he laughed at their neighbor's cat. "You're a natural with him," Brianna observed, watching Nathan wipe tomato sauce off Tyler's chin with a napkin. "I like children. I always thought I'd have a big family someday." He paused, his expression turning wistful. "But life had other plans." "It's not too late," Brianna said gently. "You're only 38. "True. But having a family requires finding the right person. And in my position, it's hard to know who wants me versus who wants Nathan Harrison, billionaire CFO." He smiled, but there was sadness in it. "Sorry? That sounded self-pitying." "No, it sounded honest," Brianna said. "I can't imagine how lonely that must be." Their eyes met across the table. Tyler chose that moment to sneeze, breaking the intensity of the moment, and they both laughed. The rest of lunch passed too quickly. They talked easily, comfortable silences mixed with genuine conversation. When it was time for Brianna to return Tyler to daycare and get back to work, she found herself reluctant to leave. "Thank you for this," she said, gathering Tyler and his things. "It was really nice." "We should do it again," Nathan said. "If you'd like. Maybe every Thursday? I don't get enough breaks from work anyway. This was good. Really good." "I'd like that," Brianna said, smiling. As she left his office, Tyler waving bye-bye over her shoulder, Nathan stood at his window and watched them go. His chest felt tight with an emotion he couldn't quite name. Longing maybe. Hope possibly. For years, he had told himself his work was enough. Success was enough. But watching Brianna with her son, seeing the love and joy between them, made him realize how much he was missing. He wanted that. He wanted family, connection, someone to come home to. He wanted what she had even though she had so little in material terms. That afternoon, unable to focus on work, Nathan made a decision. He buzzed Patrice. "I need you to do something for me," he said. Confidentially. "Of course, Mr. Harrison. Brianna Thompson's apartment building. Can you find out if there are any better units available in the area? Something safer with more space. I want to help her relocate. Anonymously if possible." There was a pause. Then Patrice said carefully, "You care about her." "She's a good employee," Nathan said. "She's more than that to you. I can tell." Nathan sighed. "Is it that obvious?" "To me, yes. I've known you a long time. You look at her the way I've never seen you look at anyone." "It's complicated," Nathan said. "The best things usually are," Patrice replied gently. "I'll look into the housing situation. But Nathan, maybe instead of doing things anonymously, you should just be honest with her about how you feel. She's my employee. There are power dynamics, ethics to consider. There are also two human beings who clearly enjoy each other's company and could make each other happy," Patrice countered. "Life is short. Sometimes you have to take a chance." After she left, Nathan returned to the window looking out at the city. Patrice was right. Life was short. He had spent years building walls, protecting himself, staying safe in his loneliness. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to risk getting hurt. It was time to take a chance on something real. How many of you have ever felt too afraid to pursue something that could bring you joy? Sometimes the biggest risk is not taking one at all. If this story is speaking to you, hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us bring more uplifting stories like this one. Over the following weeks, Thursday lunches with Nathan became the highlight of Brianna's week. They never discussed it with other employees, keeping their meetings private and professional. But those hours, sitting in Nathan's office with Tyler babbling between them, became a space where both of them could be themselves without pretense or performance. Nathan learned that Brianna loved old movies, especially the classics from the 1950s with happy endings and dramatic love stories. She learned that he played piano, though he rarely had time anymore, and that his favorite composer was Chopin. She told him about growing up with her grandmother, who had raised her after her own mother passed away when she was 10. He shared how his mother had worked herself to exhaustion to give him opportunities, and how her death had left a hole in his life he had never quite filled. The conversations were easy and honest in a way that surprised them both. One Thursday in late March, with early spring flowers beginning to bloom in the park visible through Nathan's windows, Brianna arrived to find Nathan looking troubled. "Everything okay?" she asked, settling Tyler in the high chair that had become a permanent fixture in Nathan's office. "We lost a major contract today," Nathan admitted. $10 million deal. The client went with a competitor. "It's not financially devastating, but it's frustrating." "I'm sorry," Brianna said. "Is there anything I can do?" Nathan looked at her in surprise. "You're already doing it. Just being here helps." "Is that strange to say?" "No," Brianna said softly. "It's not strange." They ate their lunch mostly in comfortable silence, Tyler providing occasional entertainment with his attempts to grab everything on the table. Finally, Nathan spoke again. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "Tyler's father. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but I've wondered. What happened?" Brianna took a breath. She had known this question would come eventually. "His name was Jerome. We dated for 2 years. When I got pregnant, I thought he would be happy. We had talked about the future, about maybe getting married someday. But when I told him, he just left. Packed his things the next day and moved to another state. I haven't heard from him since." "That must have been devastating," Nathan said, anger flashing briefly in his eyes. "It was. For a while, I blamed myself. Thought maybe I had pushed too hard, wanted too much. But eventually, I realized that his leaving showed who he really was. And Tyler and I are better off without him." "You're incredibly strong," Nathan said. "I'm not strong. I'm just doing what needs to be done." "That's the definition of strength," Nathan countered. "Doing what needs to be done even when it's hard. Even when you're scared. You could have given up, but you didn't. You kept fighting for your son." The praise, simple and genuine, made Brianna's eyes sting with tears. She blinked them away quickly. "Thank you for saying that. Some days I wonder if I'm doing enough, if I'm giving Tyler what he needs." "He's happy, healthy, and clearly loves you," Nathan said. "That's everything." Later that afternoon, after Brianna had returned to her desk, Patrice appeared at Nathan's door with a folder. "I found something," she said, closing the door behind her. "About Brianna's apartment situation." "And?" Nathan prompted. Her building is being sold. The new owners are converting it to luxury condos. All current tenants have received notice that they need to vacate by June 1st. That's less than 3 months away. Nathan's stomach dropped. Does she know? The notices went out yesterday. She probably got hers last night. She didn't mention anything this morning, Nathan said, troubled. She wouldn't, Patrice said gently. She doesn't want to burden anyone with her problems. But Nathan, this is serious. With a baby and her income, finding a decent apartment in this city will be difficult. Everything in her price range is in neighborhoods that aren't safe or buildings with problems. Nathan stood, pacing to his window. Then we help her. Increase her salary. Give her a housing allowance. Something. Or, Patrice said carefully, you could offer her an alternative. What alternative? You have a guest house on your property. It's been empty for 2 years. It's fully furnished, has 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, everything she and Tyler would need. You could offer it to her at a minimal rent, just enough that she doesn't feel like it's charity. Nathan stared at Patrice. You're suggesting I offer an employee housing on my property? I'm suggesting you offer someone you care about a solution to a problem, Patrice corrected. Unless I'm wrong about you caring about her? You're not wrong, Nathan admitted quietly. But what if she says no? What if she thinks I have inappropriate motives? Then you explain your motives clearly and let her decide. Nathan, sometimes helping people means being vulnerable. Putting yourself out there. Taking a risk. Nathan thought about it all afternoon. By the time he left for the day, he had made a decision. He stopped by Brianna's desk where she was packing up her things to collect Tyler from daycare. Can we talk tomorrow? He asked. Privately. In my office first thing. Worry flickered across Brianna's face. Is something wrong? Did I do something? No, he assured her quickly. Nothing like that. I just need to discuss something with you. It's important. That night, Brianna barely slept. What could Nathan possibly need to discuss that was so important? Had she made a mistake in her work? Was he going to let her go? The thought made her physically ill. This job, this opportunity, had changed everything for her and Tyler. She couldn't lose it. But mixed with the worry was the notice from her landlord, sitting on her kitchen table. Vacate by June 1st. She had been trying not to think about it, pushing the panic down every time it surfaced. Where would she go? How would she find something affordable and safe with only 3 months' notice? Friday morning arrived with rain, a cold spring shower that matched Brianna's mood. She dropped Tyler at daycare with extra hugs, then made her way to Nathan's office with dread sitting heavy in her stomach. He was waiting for her, sitting not behind his desk but in one of the chairs by his conference table. He gestured for her to sit across from him. I'm not going to waste time with small talk, Nathan began. Patrice told me about your apartment building being sold. I know you have to move out by June. Brianna's shoulders sagged with relief. This wasn't about her work performance. You're not firing me then? What? No, of course not. Why would you think that? You said we needed to talk privately and it was important. I thought. I'm sorry. I should have been clearer. Nathan leaned forward. Brianna, I want to help. I have a guest house on my property that's sitting empty. It's yours if you want it. 2 bedrooms, full kitchen, private entrance. You'd have your own space, complete privacy. I'd charge you minimal rent, whatever you're paying now, just so you don't feel like it's charity. Brianna stared at him, processing his words. You want me to live on your property? I know how it sounds, Nathan said quickly. But I'm not suggesting anything inappropriate. The guest house is completely separate from the main house. You'd have your own space. I'm offering this as a friend, someone who wants to help because he can and because you need it. Nathan, I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. Please, come see the place this weekend. Bring Tyler. If you don't like it or if it feels wrong, we'll figure out something else. But at least consider it. Brianna's mind raced. Living on Nathan Harrison's property felt impossible, like something from a movie rather than real life. But she also knew her options were limited. Finding an affordable, safe place in 3 months would be nearly impossible. And Nathan had never been anything but respectful and kind. Can I ask you something honestly? She said. Anything. Why are you doing this? And please don't say it's just because you can. There's more to it than that. Nathan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was low and sincere. Because I care about you and Tyler. Because these Thursday lunches have become the best part of my week. Because I've been alone for a long time, and your presence in my life has reminded me what it feels like to connect with someone. Not as a boss or a businessman but as a person. I'm not expecting anything from you. I'm not trying to manipulate you into anything. I just want to help because I want your life to be easier. Because you deserve that." Tears slipped down Brianna's cheeks. "I care about you too," she admitted. "More than I probably should. You're my boss and I'm your employee, and this is complicated." "Life is complicated," Nathan said gently. "But sometimes good things come from complicated situations. Will you at least come see the guest house?" "Yes," Brianna said. "Yes, I'll come see it." The relief on Nathan's face was palpable. "Saturday? I can have my driver pick you and Tyler up. I can take the bus." "Brianna, let me send the driver. Please." "Okay," she agreed. "Saturday." They sat in silence for a moment, the rain pattering against the windows, both of them aware that something had shifted between them. They had crossed a line from professional courtesy into something more personal, more real. And neither of them was quite sure what that meant, but both of them wanted to find out. Saturday morning arrived with brilliant sunshine, the storm from Friday having cleared away to reveal a perfect spring day. Brianna dressed carefully in jeans and her favorite red sweater, telling herself she wasn't trying to look nice for Nathan. She was just presenting herself well. Professional. Appropriate. The driver arrived at 9 o'clock in a sleek black car that looked more expensive than anything Brianna had ever owned. Tyler was fascinated by the leather seats and the sunroof, bouncing excitedly in his car seat as they drove through the city and into the hills beyond. Brianna had looked up Nathan's address online the night before. The estate was in one of the city's most exclusive neighborhoods, where homes started at $10 million and went up from there. As they turned through the gates and up a winding driveway lined with trees, Brianna's stomach fluttered with nerves. The main house was exactly what she had imagined. Modern, glass and stone, perched on the hillside with views that probably stretched for miles. But the driver didn't stop at the main house. Instead, he continued down a smaller drive that curved around to the back of the property. The guest house was there, nestled among trees with its own small garden. It was charming, built in a style that matched the main house but felt more intimate, more homey. It was painted a soft blue-gray with white trim, and flowers bloomed in beds along the walkway. Nathan was waiting on the porch. He wore jeans and a green button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, more casual than she had ever seen him. He looked younger, less burdened, and when he smiled at her, Brianna's heart did something complicated in her chest. "Welcome," he said, coming down the steps to help her with Tyler's carrier. "What do you think so far?" "It's beautiful," Brianna said honestly. "Nathan, this is too much. Wait until you see inside before you decide that." He unlocked the door and led them in. The guest house was perfect. The main floor had an open living room and kitchen with windows that looked out onto the garden. The furniture was comfortable and tasteful, nothing ostentatious but clearly high quality. Upstairs were 2 bedrooms, one with a crib already set up. "You bought a crib?" Brianna asked, surprised. "I had one delivered yesterday," Nathan admitted. "Too presumptuous?" "Maybe a little," Brianna said, but she was smiling. But also very thoughtful. They spent an hour exploring the space. The kitchen had everything she would need. The bathroom had a tub perfect for bathing Tyler. There was a small office nook where she could set up her computer. The backyard, private and fenced, would be perfect for Tyler when he started walking. Finally, they sat on the living room couch, Tyler playing with blocks on a blanket on the floor. "What do you think?" Nathan asked. "I think this is the nicest place I've ever seen," Brianna said. "And I think you're offering me far more than I could ever pay for." "Nathan, I can't afford this. Even at minimal rent, I know what a place like this is worth." "I'm not asking what it's worth. I'm asking what you think is fair. Whatever you're paying now for your studio, that's what I'll charge. The rest is just empty space that no one is using. You'd actually be doing me a favor by occupying it. The place needs to be lived in." Brianna laughed despite herself. "That's a creative argument. Is it working?" She looked around the room at the light streaming through the windows, at Tyler happily playing on his blanket, at Nathan watching her with hope in his eyes. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Scared that this is too good to be true. Scared that accepting this much help makes me weak or dependent. Scared that I'm letting myself feel things for you that I shouldn't feel." "I'm scared too," Nathan said quietly. "Scared that I'm being too forward. Scared that I'm taking advantage of a power dynamic even though that's the last thing I want. Scared that I'm falling for someone and I have no idea if she could ever feel the same way." Their eyes met. Tyler babbled happily, oblivious to the tension crackling between the adults. "I do feel the same way," Brianna whispered. "That's what scares me most." Nathan reached across the space between them and took her hand. His palm was warm, his grip gentle but firm. Then maybe we can be scared together. Maybe we can figure this out as we go. I don't have all the answers, Brianna. I just know that you make me feel less alone. You and Tyler, you've brought something into my life that I didn't even know I was missing. What if it doesn't work out? Brianna asked. What if we try this and it fails? I could lose my job. Tyler could lose his stability. You won't lose your job, Nathan said firmly. No matter what happens between us personally, your position at Harrison Industries is secure. I'll put that in writing if you need me to. As for the rest, I can't promise there won't be risks. But I can promise that I'll do everything in my power to make sure Tyler is always safe and cared for. That you're both always safe and cared for. Brianna took a shaky breath. Every logical part of her brain was screaming that this was too fast, too much, too complicated. But her heart, the part of her that had been lonely for so long, was louder. Okay, she said. I'll move in. And we'll see what happens. Between us. The smile that broke across Nathan's face was pure joy. He squeezed her hand. Thank you. For trusting me. Don't make me regret it, Brianna said, but she was smiling too. I won't. I promise. They spent the rest of the morning at the guest house. Nathan had stocked the refrigerator with groceries, which made Brianna both exasperated and touched. He showed her how the security system worked, gave her keys and garage door openers, explained that the housekeeper, Maria, came twice a week and would be happy to help with anything Brianna needed. Over sandwiches at the small kitchen table, Tyler napping upstairs in the new crib, they talked about logistics. Brianna could move in any time before June 1st. Nathan would help with the move, arranging movers if she needed them. The rent would be $500 a month, the same as her current apartment, and utilities would be included. What about your privacy? Brianna asked. Won't it bother you having people so close to your house? I think, Nathan said carefully, that it will be the opposite of bothersome. I think it will be nice to know you're nearby. To maybe share dinner sometimes. To not eat alone in that big house every night. You eat alone every night? Brianna asked. Every night. Have for years. That's so sad. It was, Nathan agreed. Until recently. The look he gave her made Brianna's breath catch. This was real. This was happening. She was moving onto a billionaire's estate. She was developing feelings for her boss. Her life, which had been so small and constrained just 2 months ago, was expanding in ways she never could have imagined. It was terrifying. It was wonderful. As the driver took her and Tyler home that afternoon, Brianna looked back at the guest house through the rear window. Somewhere in that beautiful estate, Nathan was probably in his main house, probably working even though it was Saturday, probably feeling the same mix of excitement and fear that she felt. They were taking a risk. Both of them. But as Miss Dorothy had told her weeks ago, sometimes the Lord worked in mysterious ways. And maybe, just maybe, this was one of those times. That evening, Brianna called her grandmother's sister, Aunt Beverly, the only family she had left. She told her everything. About Nathan, about the job, about the guest house offer. Aunt Beverly listened quietly, then said something that stuck with Brianna. Baby, you've been fighting alone for so long. Maybe it's time to let someone fight with you. Don't be so proud that you can't accept a blessing when it shows up. But what if he wants something in return eventually? Brianna asked. Then you'll deal with it. But from what you've told me, this man has been nothing but respectful and kind. Sometimes a blessing is just a blessing. Accept it with gratitude and see where it leads. Lying in bed that night, Tyler sleeping peacefully in his crib nearby, Brianna thought about Aunt Beverly's words. She thought about Nathan's expression when he had held her hand. She thought about the way her heart had felt lighter all day, buoyed by hope and possibility. She was going to do this. She was going to move into the guest house. She was going to see what developed between her and Nathan. She was going to take a chance on happiness. And whatever happened, she would face it with the same strength that had carried her through every other challenge in her life. 3 blocks away in his estate, Nathan sat at his piano for the first time in months. His fingers found the keys, playing Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, the notes gentle and melancholic and beautiful. He played until midnight, music filling the empty spaces of his house, and for the first time in years, he felt something very close to happiness. The last week of May arrived with unseasonable heat. The city sweltered under temperatures in the mid-90s, the kind of heat that made the asphalt shimmer and turned apartments without air conditioning into ovens. Brianna was scheduled to move into Nathan's guest house that weekend. She had packed most of her belongings into boxes borrowed from Harrison Industries' mailroom, and Nathan had arranged for a moving company to handle the heavy lifting. Everything was going according to plan. Until Wednesday evening when everything fell apart. Brianna arrived home from work at 6:30, carrying Tyler and her work bag, looking forward to a quiet evening of packing the last few items. As she climbed the stairs to her third-floor apartment, she noticed water dripping from the ceiling in the hallway. A lot of water. Her stomach clenched with dread. She unlocked her door and stepped into disaster. Water was pouring through the ceiling in her kitchen, streaming down the walls, pooling on the floor. Her boxes of packed belongings were soaked. The ceiling itself was bulging, sagging under the weight of water, looking ready to collapse at any moment. "No," Brianna whispered. "No, no, no." She quickly grabbed Tyler's diaper bag and the baby carrier, retreating into the hallway. Other tenants were emerging from their apartments, all facing similar flooding. Someone had called the fire department, and soon the building was evacuated. The property manager, a harried-looking man named Frank, arrived within 20 minutes. "Main pipe burst on the 4th floor," he explained to the gathered tenants. "The whole building needs to be evacuated until we can assess the damage. Could be days, could be weeks." "What about our belongings?" someone asked. "Don't go back in until the fire marshal says it's safe. The ceilings are unstable." Brianna stood on the sidewalk with Tyler in her arms, watching water pour from the building's windows, and felt panic rising in her chest. Everything she owned was in that apartment. Her clothes, Tyler's clothes, important documents, photos of her grandmother, the few precious items she had managed to keep through all the moves and struggles of the past year. And now it was all underwater. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She had to call someone. But who? Miss Dorothy was visiting her daughter in another state. Aunt Beverly lived 3 hours away and didn't have room for her and Tyler. She had coworkers, but none she knew well enough to ask for a place to stay. There was only one person she could call. Nathan answered on the first ring. "Brianna? Is everything okay?" "No," she said, her voice breaking. "My apartment building. There was a pipe burst. Everything is flooded. They evacuated everyone. I don't know what to do. Tyler and I have nowhere to go. Where are you right now?" Nathan's voice was calm, taking charge immediately. "Outside the building. On the sidewalk. Stay there. I'm sending my driver. He'll be there in 15 minutes. Pack whatever you can carry safely. Leave the rest. Just get you and Tyler somewhere dry." "Nathan, I can't just show up at your place." "Yes, you can. That's exactly what you're going to do. The guest house is ready. You were moving in this weekend anyway. We're just moving up the timeline. Go inside only if it's safe, grab whatever essentials you can reach quickly and wait for my driver. Understand?" His authoritative tone cut through Brianna's panic. Okay, yes. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just get somewhere safe." 20 minutes later, Brianna was in Nathan's car with Tyler, clutching 2 garbage bags hastily filled with whatever she could salvage from the apartment. Most of Tyler's clothes were dry because she had packed them in plastic bins. She had grabbed important documents from a filing cabinet that had been protected from the worst of the water. But so much was lost. So much would have to be replaced. The driver took them straight to Nathan's estate. Nathan was waiting at the guest house when they arrived, and the moment Brianna stepped out of the car, she burst into tears. "Hey," Nathan said softly, pulling her into a hug. Tyler was squished between them but didn't seem to mind, resting his head against Nathan's chest. "It's going to be okay. You're both safe. That's what matters." "Everything is ruined," Brianna sobbed into his shoulder. "My grandmother's photo albums. Tyler's baby book. All our clothes. Everything." "We'll replace what can be replaced," Nathan said. "And I'm so sorry for what can't be. But right now let's get you both inside. You're safe here. I promise." He ushered them into the guest house, which was cool and dry and felt like sanctuary. Maria, the housekeeper, had prepared the bedrooms with fresh linens and had stocked the kitchen with food. Nathan had even bought new toiletries, knowing Brianna wouldn't have time to pack properly. "I don't know what I would have done without you," Brianna said, sinking onto the couch with Tyler still in her arms. "You would have figured something out," Nathan said, sitting beside her. "You're strong. But you don't have to figure everything out alone anymore." That night, after Tyler was asleep in the new crib, Brianna and Nathan sat in the living room, drinking tea and talking until almost midnight. She told him about losing her grandmother's things, how those items were her last connection to the woman who had raised her. He told her that he understood loss, that his mother's belongings had been lost in a fire years after her death, and how it had felt like losing her all over again. "Material things aren't the memories," Nathan said gently. "The memories live in you. In your heart. Nothing can take those away." I know, Brianna said. But it still hurts. It will for a while. That's okay. You're allowed to grieve. Over the next few days, Nathan took charge of helping Brianna rebuild. He took her shopping, insisting on buying her and Tyler new wardrobes despite her protests. He hired a company to salvage what they could from her apartment once the building was deemed safe to enter. He found a photographer who specialized in restoring water-damaged photos, and several of her grandmother's pictures were saved. Through it all, Brianna felt her feelings for Nathan deepening. He never made her feel like a burden. He never acted like his help came with strings attached. He was simply there, steady and kind and generous in ways that had nothing to do with his money and everything to do with his character. One evening, a week after the flood, they were sitting on the guest house porch watching the sunset. Tyler was playing with blocks at their feet. The air had finally cooled and the evening was pleasant. "Can I ask you something?" Brianna said. "Always." "Why me?" "I mean, I'm grateful, but I need to understand. You could have anyone. You could have a life with someone from your world, someone who understands your lifestyle. Why are you spending all this time and money helping me?" Nathan was quiet for a long moment, watching the sun paint the sky orange and pink. "Do you want the honest answer?" "Always. Because when I'm with you, I feel like myself. Not Nathan Harrison, the CFO. Not the billionaire. Just Nathan. A guy who plays piano and likes old movies and gets lonely eating dinner by himself. When you look at me, you don't see dollar signs. You see a person. Do you have any idea how rare that is?" Brianna felt tears prick her eyes. "I do see you. The real you. And Nathan, I'm falling in love with that person." The words hung in the air between them. Nathan turned to look at her, his eyes intense. "Say that again." "I'm falling in love with you," Brianna repeated, her voice stronger this time. "I've been trying not to. Telling myself it's too complicated, too fast. But it's the truth." Nathan reached over and took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "I'm in love with you too. I have been for weeks. I just didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to pressure you or make you feel obligated because of everything I've done." "You could never pressure me," Brianna said. "And I don't feel obligated. I feel grateful, yes. But what I feel for you goes so far beyond gratitude." They sat there, hands intertwined, watching the sunset fade to twilight. Tyler, oblivious to the significance of the moment, knocked over his tower of blocks and clapped for himself. "Where do we go from here?" Brianna asked. "Forward," Nathan said simply. "Together. We figure it out as we go. No pressure, no expectations beyond honesty and communication. We just see where this takes us." "I'd like that," Brianna said. Nathan leaned over and kissed her, soft and gentle, a promise of things to come. It was Brianna's first kiss in over a year and it felt like coming home. When they finally pulled apart, both of them smiling, Tyler had fallen asleep on his blanket, exhausted from his evening of play. Nathan carefully picked him up, cradling the baby against his chest with surprising comfort. "He trusts you," Brianna observed. "I hope so," Nathan said. "Because I love him too. Both of you. My whole heart." And standing there on the porch of the guest house, with the man she loved holding her son, Brianna realized that sometimes the worst disasters led to the best blessings. Sometimes losing everything meant finding what really mattered. She had come so far from that desperate woman returning baby formula at a supermarket checkout. And while the journey hadn't been easy, every step had been worth it. This was her new beginning, her second chance, and she was going to embrace it with both hands and an open heart. Living on Nathan's property transformed both their lives in ways neither had anticipated. The proximity, which Brianna had worried might feel intrusive, instead created a natural rhythm that felt surprisingly right. Most weekday mornings, Nathan would knock on the guest house door with fresh coffee and pastries from the bakery downtown, joining Brianna and Tyler for breakfast before they all headed to the office together. Evenings were relaxed and comfortable. Sometimes Nathan would cook dinner for them in the guest house kitchen, revealing a talent for pasta dishes he had learned from his mother. Other times they would order takeout and eat on the patio, Tyler playing nearby while they talked about their days. On weekends, they explored the city together, visiting the zoo, the aquarium, the children's museum. To the outside world, they maintained professional boundaries at work. But in the privacy of the estate, they were building something real, something that felt like family. One Saturday in late June, Nathan arrived at the guest house with a surprising request. "My piano is lonely," he said. "I was thinking maybe you and Tyler would like to come to the main house this evening? I could play for you. Maybe we could have dinner there for a change." Brianna hesitated. In the months she had lived on the property, she had never been inside Nathan's main house. It had felt like crossing a line, entering his private space in a way that was too intimate too soon. But things had changed between them. They were officially together now, even if they hadn't announced it publicly. She had met his handful of close friends. He had video chatted with Aunt Beverly. They were building a relationship, and relationships required trust and openness. "I'd love that," she said. That evening, Brianna dressed carefully in a new maroon dress Nathan had bought her during their shopping trip. She put Tyler in his best outfit, the blue button-down shirt with tiny boats on it. At 7 o'clock, she walked the stone path that connected the guest house to the main house, nerves fluttering in her stomach. Nathan opened the door with a smile that made her heart skip. "You look beautiful. You look pretty good yourself," Brianna said. He wore dark jeans and a cream-colored sweater, casual but polished. The inside of the house was as stunning as she had imagined. Soaring ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows with views of the city below, modern art on the walls. But despite its grandeur, it felt empty. Cold. The furniture was elegant but unused. The kitchen looked barely touched. The massive space echoed with their footsteps. "It's a beautiful house," Brianna said diplomatically. "It's a monument to my loneliness," Nathan said with unexpected honesty. "I bought it 5 years ago thinking I needed something that reflected my success. But I've never felt at home here. Not really." He led them to the music room, where a grand piano sat by windows overlooking the garden. This room felt different. More lived in. More loved. Sheet music covered the piano bench, and a framed photo on the mantel showed a young Nathan with a woman who must have been his mother. "She was beautiful," Brianna said, studying the photo. "She was everything," Nathan said softly. "Strong, kind, never gave up no matter how hard things got. I wish she could have met you. She would have loved you." Brianna felt tears prick her eyes. "I wish I could have met her too." Nathan sat at the piano and began to play. The music that filled the room was achingly beautiful, a melody that spoke of longing and hope and love. Tyler, sitting on a blanket near the piano, was transfixed, his eyes wide as he watched Nathan's fingers move across the keys. Brianna settled into a chair, letting the music wash over her. She had heard Nathan play before on the piano in the guest house, but this was different. In this space with this instrument he was completely himself. Vulnerable and open and real. When the piece ended, Tyler clapped his hands together, delighted. Nathan laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "I think you have a fan," Brianna said. "The most important fan," Nathan agreed, reaching down to ruffle Tyler's hair. Dinner was served in the formal dining room, though Nathan had set up their places at one end of the long table so they could sit close together rather than shouting across the expanse. Maria had prepared Nathan's favorite meal, roasted chicken with herbs and vegetables, served with crusty bread and a salad. For Tyler, she had made pureed sweet potatoes and peas, which he ate with enthusiastic messiness. "This house needs this," Nathan said, watching Tyler smear sweet potato across his face. Laughter. "What? Mess? You really don't mind the mess?" Brianna asked, gesturing to the sweet potato now decorating Tyler's hair. "I mind that I've lived here for 5 years and the house has always been spotless because no one actually lives in it," Nathan said. "A little sweet potato is a small price to pay for feeling like this place is finally a home." After dinner they toured the rest of the house. The master bedroom with its stunning bathroom and private balcony. The library lined with books Nathan admitted he rarely had time to read. The home gym he used religiously every morning. The guest rooms that stood empty and waiting. "Do you ever think about what you'd do with all this space if you had a family?" Brianna asked as they stood in one of the guest rooms. "All the time," Nathan admitted. "When I bought this place I imagined it full of children. Big family. Holiday gatherings. Birthday parties in the backyard. But then years passed and I just gave up on that dream. Told myself my company was my legacy." "It's not too late," Brianna said. "You're only 38. You could still have all of that." Nathan turned to face her, his expression serious. "What if I told you I'd like to have that with you? With Tyler? What if I said that in the short time you've been in my life, you've made me believe in that dream again?" Brianna's breath caught. "Nathan, I'm not proposing," he said quickly. "We're not there yet. I know we need time. But I want you to know where my heart is. I see a future with you, Brianna. A real future. Marriage, maybe more children if you want them, growing old together. I see it all." "I see it too," Brianna whispered. "It terrifies me, but I see it." "Why does it terrify you?" "Because I've never had anything this good. I'm waiting for something to go wrong. For you to realize I'm not enough, that Tyler and I don't belong in your world." Nathan pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. You are enough. You're more than enough. And this isn't my world versus your world. It's our world now. Whatever we build together. They stood like that for a long moment, holding each other in the empty guest room. Downstairs, they could hear Maria playing with Tyler, his delighted giggles echoing through the house. He's happy here, Brianna said. Are you happy here? Nathan asked. Yes, Brianna said without hesitation. Happier than I've been in a long time. Maybe ever. Then let's keep building on that. One day at a time. They returned to the music room where Nathan played more pieces while Brianna curled up on the couch with Tyler, who was fighting sleep but losing the battle. The evening felt perfect, domestic and peaceful in a way that Brianna had once thought was only possible in movies. Around 10 o'clock, Tyler finally gave in to sleep, his head resting on Brianna's shoulder. Nathan stopped playing and came to sit beside her. Can I ask you something? He said. Of course. If I were to ask Tyler's father to terminate his parental rights, would you support that? And if he agreed, would you allow me to adopt Tyler? Legally become his father? Brianna stared at him in shock. You want to adopt Tyler? I love him like he's my own son, Nathan said simply. I want to be his father in every way that matters. I know we're not married and maybe that's unconventional, but I want Tyler to have my name, my protection, my commitment. If you'll let me. Tears streamed down Brianna's face. Nathan, that's everything. Yes. If Jerome will agree to terminate his rights, yes. I would be honored for you to be Tyler's father. Nathan leaned forward and kissed her gently, mindful of the sleeping baby between them. Then I'll start the process on Monday. I'll make it happen. As Brianna walked back to the guest house later that night, carrying a sleeping Tyler, she looked up at the stars visible in the clear summer sky. Her life had become something she never could have imagined. She was in love with a brilliant, kind, generous man. She had a home. She had security. She had hope. And her son was going to have a father who chose him, who loved him, who would protect him and provide for him and be there for all the moments big and small. Sometimes, Brianna thought, prayers were answered in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes rock bottom was just the foundation for building something beautiful. She kissed Tyler's forehead as she tucked him into his crib. Your life is going to be so good, baby boy, she whispered. So much better than I ever could have given you alone. And you'll never doubt for 1 second that you are loved. In the main house, Nathan stood at his bedroom window, looking out at the guest house where lights still glowed. He had meant what he said. He wanted a future with Brianna and Tyler. He wanted to make them his family, officially and legally and forever. For years he had thought success meant building $1 billion company. And that success had brought him many things. But it had never brought him happiness. It had never brought him home. Brianna had done that. She and Tyler had shown him what really mattered. And now that he had found it, he was never letting go. August arrived with warm, lazy days and long evenings. Brianna had been living on Nathan's estate for 3 months, and their relationship had deepened into something solid and sure. They had settled into a comfortable rhythm, balancing professional lives at Harrison Industries with personal time at home. Tyler had started crawling, getting into everything with gleeful determination. Nathan had baby-proofed the entire guest house, installing gates and outlet covers and cabinet locks with the enthusiasm of a first-time parent. He had legally begun the adoption process, though Jerome had yet to respond to the termination of rights paperwork. Brianna tried not to think about that complication too much, focusing instead on the present happiness. But Nathan was restless about something. Brianna could tell. He would start to say something, then stop. He would look at her with an intensity that made her heart race, then change the subject. Something was coming and she wasn't sure what it was. One Friday evening in mid-August, Nathan suggested they have dinner at a nice restaurant downtown. This was unusual. They typically preferred quiet evenings at home, especially with Tyler. But Nathan insisted, arranging for Maria to babysit so they could have a proper date night. Brianna dressed in the beautiful red dress Nathan had bought her for her birthday the previous month. Nathan wore a perfectly fitted navy suit with no tie, the top button of his shirt undone. They looked, Brianna thought, like a real couple. Like they belonged together. The restaurant was elegant without being pretentious, with soft lighting and a view of the river. Nathan had reserved a private corner table, and the waiter brought champagne without being asked, which told Brianna that Nathan had prearranged something. You're making me nervous, Brianna said after they had ordered their meals. What's going on? Nathan took a deep breath. I need to tell you something. Actually, I need to tell you several things. And I'm going to ask you for something. But first, I need you to know that I love you. Completely. Unconditionally. Nothing I'm about to say changes that. Now you're really making me nervous, Brianna said, though she tried to keep her tone light. Do you remember when we first met? At the supermarket. Nathan asked. Of course. I think about that night all the time. I told you I helped you because I remembered being that child, that mother. That was true. But it wasn't the complete truth. He paused, gathering his thoughts. The complete truth is that I saw you and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. A connection. An attraction. An immediate sense that you were someone important, someone who would matter in my life. When you couldn't pay for the formula, I saw an opportunity to help, yes. But I also saw an opportunity to be part of your life. So you gave me a job, Brianna said slowly, trying to understand where this was going. I gave you a job because you deserved one, because you had potential. But I also gave you a job because I wanted to get to know you. I told myself I was being altruistic, but the truth is more complicated. I was drawn to you from the start. Brianna considered this. Are you saying you manipulated me? No, Nathan said firmly. I'm saying my motives weren't entirely pure. I helped you because I wanted to help. But I also helped you because I was lonely and you seemed like someone who might understand that loneliness. I'm telling you this now because I don't want any secrets between us. I don't want you to ever wonder if my feelings are genuine. They are. They've been genuine from the beginning. Nathan, Brianna said gently, reaching across the table to take his hand. I appreciate your honesty. But I'm not upset. You helped me when I needed it most. Yes, maybe you had other reasons besides pure charity. But you've never once made me feel obligated or pressured. You've never asked for anything in return. So whatever your initial motives, what matters is how you've treated me. And you've treated me with nothing but respect and kindness. Relief flooded Nathan's face. You're sure? You're not angry? I'm sure. Was there something else you wanted to tell me? Nathan pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and set it on the table between them. Brianna's heart stopped. I know we've only known each other for 6 months, Nathan said. I know people will say it's too fast, too soon. But Brianna, I have never been more certain of anything in my life. You and Tyler, you're my family. You're my home. I don't want to wait years to make that official. I want to marry you. I want to adopt Tyler and give him my name. I want to fill that big empty house with love and laughter and maybe, if you want, more children someday. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep beside you every night. I want everything forever with you. He opened the box, revealing a stunning ring. The center stone was a round diamond, elegant and classic, set in platinum with smaller diamonds along the band. It was beautiful without being ostentatious, perfect without being flashy. Brianna Thompson, will you marry me? Tears were streaming down Brianna's face. She looked at the ring, then at Nathan, then at the ring again. 6 months ago, she had been returning baby formula she couldn't afford. Now a man she loved beyond reason was proposing marriage. Yes, she whispered. Yes, Nathan. I'll marry you. Nathan's smile could have lit up the entire city. He slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly, like it had been made for her. Which she realized it probably had been. They barely touched their food when it arrived, too caught up in each other, in planning and dreaming and laughing. They talked about wedding timelines, about where they would live, about Tyler's adoption. Nathan wanted to get married soon, within the next few months if possible. Brianna wanted something small and intimate, just family and close friends. They agreed on everything, their visions for the future aligning perfectly. There's one more thing, Nathan said over dessert. I want you to stop working at Harrison Industries. Brianna's smile faded. What? Why? Not because you're doing anything wrong, Nathan said quickly. You're brilliant at your job. But because I want you to have choices. If you want to work, you can work anywhere, doing anything that makes you happy. If you want to stay home with Tyler, you can do that. If you want to go back to school, pursue a degree, start a business, anything. I want you to have the freedom to choose your path without financial pressure. Nathan, I like my job, Brianna protested. I know. And you're welcome to keep it if that's what you want. I'm just saying you don't have to. You don't have to work to prove you're not with me for my money. You don't have to maintain independence to show you're strong. You've already proven all of that. I just want you to know you have options. Brianna thought about this. She did like her job. But she also missed spending more time with Tyler. She had always dreamed of going back to school, maybe getting a degree in early childhood education. With Nathan, those dreams could become reality. Can I think about it? She asked. Take all the time you need, Nathan assured her. Whatever you decide, I support you completely. They left the restaurant hand in hand, Brianna's ring catching the light from street lamps. On the drive home, they called Aunt Beverly together, putting her on speakerphone to share the news. Her joyful shouts of congratulations made them both laugh. "I told you that man was a blessing," Aunt Beverly said. "I knew it from the first time you told me about him." "When's the wedding?" "Soon," Brianna said, looking at Nathan with love in her eyes. "We don't want to wait." "Good," Aunt Beverly said. "Life's too short to wait when you found the right person." Back at the estate, they relieved Maria and spent an hour just watching Tyler sleep, marveling at how perfect and peaceful he looked. Nathan put his arm around Brianna's waist, and she leaned her head on his shoulder. "Are you happy?" he asked softly. "Happier than I knew was possible," Brianna replied. "A year ago I was barely surviving. Now I have everything I ever wanted and things I didn't even know I could want. It feels like a dream." "It's real," Nathan promised. "This is our life. This is our family. And it's only going to get better from here." That night, after Tyler was settled and the guest house was quiet, Brianna lay in bed staring at her ring. The diamond caught moonlight from the window, casting small rainbows on the ceiling. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, all the struggles and fears and moments of despair. She thought about that night in the supermarket, returning formula she couldn't afford to buy, her baby screaming in hunger, her pride and dignity in tatters. She had hit rock bottom that night. But from that lowest point, everything had changed. Nathan had seen her. Really seen her. Not as a charity case or an obligation, but as a person worth knowing, worth helping, worth loving. And now she was going to be his wife. Tyler was going to be his son. They were going to be a family, official and permanent and real. Sometimes, Brianna thought, the worst moments of your life were doorways to the best things you never saw coming. Sometimes hitting rock bottom meant you had nowhere to go but up. And sometimes, just sometimes, the kindness of one stranger could change everything. She fell asleep with a smile on her face and hope in her heart, dreaming of the future she and Nathan were going to build together. 6 months later, on a crisp February morning, Brianna stood in front of the mirror in the master bedroom of Nathan's house. Their house, she corrected herself. She still wasn't entirely used to thinking of the grand estate as hers, but Nathan had insisted on moving her into the main house 3 weeks after their engagement. The guest house now stood empty, a reminder of where they had started. Today was her wedding day. The ceremony would be small, held in the estate's garden with just 40 guests. Aunt Beverly had arrived 2 days ago, staying in one of the guest rooms and crying happy tears every time she looked at Brianna. Miss Dorothy had returned from her daughter's place and was downstairs helping Maria with last-minute preparations. A handful of close friends from Harrison Industries would attend, including Rochelle and Patrice. Nathan's college roommate was flying in to serve as best man. And Tyler, now almost 1 year old and walking with wobbly determination, would be their ring bearer, though Brianna suspected he'd be more interested in eating the rose petals than walking down the aisle. Brianna wore a simple ivory dress that fell to her knees, with lace sleeves and a fitted waist. Nothing ostentatious or overly formal. It was elegant and comfortable and perfect for the intimate ceremony they had planned. Her hair was swept up in a loose bun with small white flowers woven throughout. "You look beautiful," Aunt Beverly said, appearing in the doorway. "Just beautiful. I wish your grandmother could see you now." "I think she can," Brianna said softly. "I think she knows I'm happy." "That man loves you like you hung the moon," Aunt Beverly said. "I've never seen someone look at another person the way he looks at you. You chose well, baby girl." "I didn't choose him," Brianna said. "Life chose him for me. The right person at the right time." Downstairs, Nathan was getting ready in his study. He wore a charcoal gray suit with a blue tie, and his hands trembled slightly as he tied it. He, who had closed billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, was nervous about marrying the woman he loved. His college roommate, James, watched with amusement. "Relax. She's going to say yes." "She already said yes." "I know. It's just, this is it. This is my life changing. Officially becoming a husband. Officially becoming Tyler's father. It's everything I've wanted, and I can't believe it's actually happening." "You deserve this," James said. "You've spent the last decade building an empire but living alone. It's about time you let yourself be happy." The adoption had been finalized 3 weeks ago. Jerome, Tyler's biological father, had readily agreed to terminate his rights, especially when Nathan's lawyers offered him money to do so quickly. Brianna had mixed feelings about that, but she couldn't deny the relief when the papers came through. Tyler was now legally Tyler Harrison, and the look on Nathan's face when the judge finalized it had been worth any moral ambiguity about paying Jerome off. At 2 o'clock, guests began arriving. The February weather had cooperated, giving them a sunny afternoon with temperatures in the mid-50s. The garden had been transformed with white chairs arranged in rows, an arch covered in roses and greenery, and soft music playing from hidden speakers. Brianna watched from an upstairs window as people took their seats. She saw Rochelle, who had been promoted to senior administrative assistant thanks in part to training from Brianna. She saw Patrice, who had become something of a mentor and friend. She saw people whose names she now knew, whose lives had touched hers over the past months at Harrison Industries. And she saw Nathan, standing at the altar with his best man, looking up at the window where she stood. Even from that distance, she could see the love in his expression. "Ready?" Aunt Beverly asked. "More than ready," Brianna replied. The ceremony was simple and beautiful. Tyler toddled down the aisle holding Miss Dorothy's hand, delighting the guests with his serious expression as he carried a small pillow with the rings tied to it. Then the music changed and Brianna appeared with Aunt Beverly. Nathan's breath caught as he saw her. She was radiant, smiling, walking toward him with such confidence and joy that it made his chest ache. This woman, who had been so broken and desperate less than a year ago, was now whole and happy and about to become his wife. The ceremony itself passed in a blur of emotions. They exchanged traditional vows, keeping it simple and sincere. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Nathan kissed Brianna like she was his salvation, which in many ways she was. The reception was held in the house, which had been decorated with flowers and candles and looked nothing like the cold, empty space it had been when Brianna first saw it. Now it was warm and alive, filled with laughter and music and love. During dinner, several people gave toasts. Patrice spoke about watching their relationship develop, how obvious it had been to everyone at the office that Nathan had found someone special. Aunt Beverly shared stories about Brianna's strength and determination, how proud her grandmother would have been. James told embarrassing college stories that made Nathan groan and Brianna laugh. But the most touching moment came after dinner, when Nathan took the microphone. "A year ago," he began, his voice steady despite his emotions, "I was the loneliest person I knew. I had built a successful company. I had wealth beyond measure. But I had no one to share it with. My house was empty. My life was empty. And I had accepted that as my reality. Then one night I stopped at a supermarket on my way home. And I watched a young woman try to buy formula for her baby with a card that wouldn't work. I watched her make the decision to return that formula, even though her baby was crying with hunger. I watched her shoulders shake as she accepted that she would have to wait, to somehow make it work, to keep fighting even though she was exhausted. And I thought, I can help. I can make a difference here. This is why I worked so hard, so that someday I could help someone who needs it." What I didn't know was that by helping Brianna, she was helping me. She reminded me what kindness looks like, what strength looks like, what love looks like. She and Tyler gave me a reason to come home at night. They filled my empty house with noise and laughter and life. They made me remember what I had forgotten in my pursuit of success. That people matter more than profits. That love matters more than ambition. That family is everything. Nathan looked at Brianna, his eyes shining with tears. "So thank you. Thank you for letting me help you. Thank you for accepting my help with grace and gratitude. Thank you for falling in love with me even though it was complicated and scary. Thank you for trusting me with Tyler's heart and future. Thank you for making me a husband and a father. Thank you for everything." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Later that evening, after guests had left and Tyler was asleep upstairs with Miss Dorothy keeping watch, Nathan and Brianna stood in the garden where they had been married hours earlier. "Mrs. Harrison," Nathan said, testing out her new name. "Mr. Harrison," Brianna replied, smiling. "That's going to take some getting used to. We have the rest of our lives to get used to it." They swayed together to music only they could hear, holding each other close under the stars. "Do you ever think about that night at the supermarket?" Brianna asked. "About how one moment changed everything?" "All the time," Nathan said. "But I don't think it was one moment. I think it was a series of choices. You chose to keep fighting even when things looked hopeless. I chose to help instead of walking past. You chose to accept my help instead of letting pride stop you. We chose to trust each other, to be vulnerable with each other, to build something together. Each choice led to the next, and here we are." "Here we are," Brianna echoed. "Married. Parents. Happy. Are you happy?" Nathan asked. "Really, truly happy?" "Nathan, I wake up every day amazed at my life. Amazed at you. Amazed that this is real. So yes, I'm happy. Happier than I have words to express." "Good," Nathan said, kissing the top of her head. "That's all I want. For you and Tyler to be happy and safe and loved. Always." They stood in the garden until the cold drove them inside, then spent their wedding night in the master bedroom that was now officially theirs. They talked until almost dawn, making plans and dreaming dreams and promising each other forever. The next morning, Brianna woke to find Tyler had climbed into bed with them, snuggled between her and Nathan. Her husband, she thought, testing out the word. Her husband was gently stroking Tyler's hair, watching their son sleep with such tenderness that it made Brianna's throat tight with emotion. "Good morning," Nathan whispered, noticing she was awake. "Good morning," Brianna replied. "This is perfect. This moment right here." "Every moment with you is perfect," Nathan said. It sounded cheesy when she replayed it later, but in that moment, lying in bed with her husband and their son, Brianna believed it completely. Epilogue. 5 years later, the Harrison house was no longer empty. Tyler, now 6 years old and starting first grade, ran through the halls with his little sister Clara, age 3, chasing after him. A baby, Benjamin, slept peacefully in his crib upstairs. Brianna had finished her degree in early childhood education and now ran a nonprofit foundation, funded by Harrison Industries, that provided resources and support to single parents. She worked part-time, spending the rest of her energy on her children and occasionally helping Nathan with special projects at the company. Nathan had cut back his hours at work, making time for family dinners and soccer games and dance recitals. The house that had once been a monument to his loneliness was now filled with noise and mess and love. On a sunny Saturday afternoon in September, they all went back to that supermarket where it had started. Nathan wanted to show Tyler, who was now old enough to understand, where he had first met his mom. "You bought mommy formula for me?" Tyler asked, looking at the checkout lanes with wide eyes. "I did," Nathan confirmed. "Your mom was having a hard day and I wanted to help." "Like how you help other people with your foundation?" Tyler asked Brianna. "Exactly like that," Brianna said. "One person helping another can change everything." As they left the store, Tyler slipped his hand into Nathan's and Clara held Brianna's hand. Benjamin slept in his carrier on Nathan's other arm. They looked, to anyone watching, like any other family doing Saturday errands. But they weren't just any family. They were a family built on kindness and hope and love. They were proof that sometimes the darkest moments led to the brightest futures. They were proof that one person could make a difference, that accepting help wasn't weakness but wisdom, that love could heal even the deepest wounds. Brianna looked back at the supermarket one more time before they got in the car. That scared, desperate woman returning formula she couldn't afford felt like a different person now. In a way she was. That woman had been broken and afraid. This woman, this Brianna Harrison, was whole and brave and happy. She had everything she had ever dreamed of and so much more she never knew to dream for. And it had all started with one stranger who saw her, really saw her, and chose kindness. Sometimes Brianna thought that's all it takes to change a life. One moment of genuine compassion. One person who cares. Nathan had been that person for her. And now, through her foundation and their family and the way they lived their lives, they were trying to be that person for others. Pay it forward. Pass it on. Spread kindness like seeds and watch love grow. That was their mission. That was their purpose. That was their happily ever after. The end.